under the gentle embrace of St. Agnes' radiant sun, where the harmonious chimes of the church bells usher in each new day, a young boy's quiet act of faith becomes a luminous beacon at St. Mary's Academy. Daniel, a reserved and contemplative soul, carries with him each day a small statue of the Virgin Mary, placing it on his desk with tender devotion. This seemingly simple gesture, initially overlooked by many, gradually captures the heart of his compassionate teacher, Mrs. Thompson. It sets in motion a story of faith, love, and community that will indelibly touch the lives of all who encounter it. In the serene town of St. Agnes, St. Mary's Academy stood as a cherished cornerstone of education and faith. Renowned for cultivating both mind and spirit, the school was a sanctuary where young hearts learned to dream, deeply rooted in the rich soil of Catholic values. Within its hallowed halls, Mrs. Thompson, a gentle and wise educator, dedicated her life to teaching with empathy and love. Her classroom was a haven of curiosity, a place where each child was seen as a unique blessing, carrying their own stories and untapped potential. As the golden leaves of September waltzed in the crisp autumn breeze, the new school year unfurled its promise. Among the eager students was Daniel, a quiet boy with deep, soulful eyes, harboring stories untold. Each morning, a small statue of the Virgin Mary graced his desk, a serene presence, a steadfast companion. With her nurturing gaze, Mrs. Thompson noticed this sacred ritual, feeling a blend of curiosity and admiration for Daniel's silent yet profound devotion. The statue, with its tranquil features and gentle smile, quickly became a revered fixture within the classroom, embodying a narrative of unspoken grace. As Mrs. Thompson observed Daniel's daily act of reverence, she pondered its significance and the story it might tell. Daniel's quiet presence, coupled with the statue's silent companionship, began weaving an intricate tapestry of faith and love that silently enveloped the classroom. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now where you are. It's always inspiring to see how stories of faith, community, and devotion to the Virgin Mary touch hearts across the world at every hour. If stories that test conviction and awaken faith resonate with you, subscribe so you don't miss what unfolds next. Drawn by Daniel's daily act of devotion, Mrs. Thompson felt an increasing desire to uncover the deeper meaning behind the statue. With a heart full of compassion, she approached Daniel one serene afternoon during recess, opening a dialogue that would unveil a touching story of familial love and spiritual connection. As Daniel shared the heartfelt tale of his grandmother's treasured gift, Mrs. Thompson's heart swelled with empathy, setting the stage for a journey of understanding and community that would soon transform her classroom. With the gentle rustle of leaves framing the playground, Mrs. Thompson leaned against the old oak tree, her eyes following Daniel as he cradled the small statue back to his desk. The bell's distant chime signaled recess, yet she lingered, caught in the gravity of a moment that seemed to whisper of deeper truths. She watched Daniel, his small fingers reverently tracing the contours of the statue, a serene expression softening his young features. How could such a simple ritual hold so much weight? Her curiosity, initially a quiet murmur, had swelled into a sonorous call she could no longer ignore. "Daniel," Mrs. Thompson called out gently, her voice blending with the soft breeze. He looked up, eyes wide with a blend of surprise and something else. Was it hope? She motioned for him to join her beneath the tree, a sanctuary of sorts amidst the playground's lively chaos. As Daniel approached, Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly, inviting trust. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but I've noticed how you care for that statue. It seems special to you. A flicker of emotion crossed Daniel's face, a shadow of vulnerability mixed with pride. It is special, Mrs. Thompson. He began, his voice steady and earnest. It was my grandmother's. She gave it to me before she passed away. The simplicity of his words hung in the air, a testament to a bond that transcended the confines of this world. Mrs. Thompson felt her heart constrict, a familiar empathy mingling with a newfound admiration for the young boy's resilience. She used to tell me stories about Mary and how she watches over us, Daniel continued, his gaze fixed on the statue, as if drawing strength from its silent presence. Whenever I miss her, I think of those stories. It helps. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her heart swelling with understanding. What a profound legacy his grandmother had left, a seed of faith planted in the fertile soil of a child's heart, growing silently with each whispered prayer and quiet act of devotion. But it's more than just remembering, Daniel added, his voice now tinged with a wisdom beyond his years. It's like when I hold the statue, I can feel her love, and I remember that God loves me too. The sincerity in his words struck a chord deep within Mrs. Thompson. Here was a testament to faith that was both tender and unyielding, a light that illuminated not just Daniel's path but now hers as well. I think your grandmother gave you a precious gift, Mrs. Thompson said softly, and it's beautiful how you keep her memory alive. Daniel smiled, the warmth of his gratitude evident despite the cool autumn breeze. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. It helps me feel close to her and to God. Their conversation lingered in the air, a sacred exchange wrapped in the quiet sanctity of the moment. Mrs. Thompson knew this was but the beginning of her journey with Daniel, one that would challenge her to balance the cherished faith of a single student with the diverse tapestry of beliefs within her classroom. As Daniel returned to his desk, the statue once again a sentinel of grace, Mrs. Thompson pondered her next steps. How could she honor Daniel's devotion while fostering an inclusive environment for all her students? The answer, she realized, lay not just in policies or practices but in the cultivation of empathy and understanding. Walking back to the classroom, Mrs. Thompson's mind was awash with reflections. She thought of the stories she had heard from her own grandmother, tales of saints and miracles that had kindled her faith. Those stories, much like Daniel's, were not mere narratives but living threads of grace that connected generations. Could she weave a similar tapestry within her classroom? In the days that followed, Mrs. Thompson sought to sow seeds of kindness and respect, nurturing a garden where every child could bloom in their unique way. She introduced moments of quiet reflection, encouraging her students to share stories of their own cultural and spiritual backgrounds. Each tale, whether of family traditions or personal beliefs, became a vibrant thread in the classroom's shared tapestry. Through these exchanges, Mrs. Thompson witnessed the blossoming of mutual respect, her students learning to appreciate the diverse perspectives that enriched their community. Daniel, with his quiet strength and unwavering faith, became a beacon of inspiration, his story a testament to the power of love and belief that transcends boundaries. As the weeks unfolded, Mrs. Thompson marveled at the transformation within her classroom, where understanding flourished and compassion reigned. The statue of Mary, once a solitary figure on Daniel's desk, became a symbol of unity, a silent reminder of the love that binds humanity together. In this sacred space, Mrs. Thompson found her own faith deepening, her heart expanding to embrace the beautiful mosaic of her students' lives. She realized that supporting Daniel's faith did not mean compromising the diversity of her classroom but rather celebrating it, each belief a unique reflection of the divine. And so, with each passing day, Mrs. Thompson continued her journey, guided by the quiet strength of a young boy and the enduring legacy of a grandmother's love. This, she knew, was the essence of true community tapestry, woven with threads of faith, love, and understanding, a masterpiece painted with the colors of grace. As the bell rang to signal the end of another day, Mrs. Thompson watched her students gather their things, their laughter echoing in the room. Her gaze lingered on Daniel, who gently placed the statue back in his bag, his eyes meeting hers with a silent gratitude. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson understood the profound truth Daniel's grandmother had imparted, that the simplest acts of faith, born from love, hold the power to illuminate the darkest corners of our world. And it was this light, carried in the hearts of her students, that would guide them through the myriad journeys of life. With a heart full of hope and a spirit renewed, Mrs. Thompson turned off the classroom lights and stepped into the twilight, knowing that the story of Daniel and his statue was just the beginning of a greater narrative, one that would continue to unfold in the lives of every child she taught, a testament to the enduring power of faith, love, and community. As Mrs. Thompson re-entered the classroom the next morning, her heart was buoyed by a newfound sense of purpose. The light of dawn streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the rows of desks. She could still feel the echo of the previous day's events, and a quiet determination settled within her today would mark the beginning of something transformative. After the morning announcements, Mrs. Thompson addressed the class, her voice steady and filled with enthusiasm. "Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a restful night. Before we begin our lessons, I'd like to introduce something new, a tradition of sharing." The students exchanged curious glances, their interest piqued. Each week, one of you will have the opportunity to bring in an item or share an experience that holds personal significance. It can be anything: a story, a memory, a symbol of your faith or culture. The goal is to learn from one another, to grow in understanding and empathy. Daniel, seated near the window, felt a sense of anticipation swelling within him. His quiet act had rippled through the hearts of his peers, and now a new chapter was being written. Mrs. Thompson continued, "I believe that each of you has something valuable to share, something that can teach us all about the beauty of diversity and the power of our individual stories." The room buzzed with excitement as the children began to discuss potential items and tales to bring. Mrs. Thompson smiled, witnessing the seeds of community and connection take root. The following week, it was Sarah's turn. She stood nervously at the front of the class, clutching a small, worn book. "This is my grandmother's prayer book," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "She used to read from it every night before bed, and she taught me the prayers inside." Sarah opened the book, showing pages filled with neat, delicate handwriting. "Whenever I feel scared or alone, I read one of these prayers, and it's like my grandmother is with me." As she finished, the room was silent, filled with a reverent stillness. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "Thank you, Sarah. That was beautiful." The tradition quickly became a cherished part of the classroom routine. Each story shared added another layer to the tapestry of their community, weaving threads of understanding and compassion. A week later, it was Mark's turn. He brought in a simple wooden cross, its edges smooth from years of handling. "This belonged to my uncle," he explained, holding it up for everyone to see. "He was a soldier, and he carried this with him everywhere. He said it reminded him to be brave and to do the right thing, even when it was hard." Mark's voice grew stronger, the weight of his words resonating with his classmates. He used to say that faith is like this cross symbol, but strong enough to carry you through anything. In the days that followed, the classroom transformed. The atmosphere was now infused with a sense of mutual respect and empathy. The students began to look at one another with fresh eyes, recognizing the sacred stories that each person carried within them. Mrs. Thompson marveled at the change. The children were more patient with one another, more willing to listen and to help. They approached their lessons with renewed enthusiasm, eager to learn not only from books but from each other. One afternoon, as the class gathered for their sharing session, Daniel stood up once more. This time, he held a small, carved wooden bird in his hands. "This is from my father," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "He made it for me before he went away for work. He said it's a reminder that I can always soar, no matter how far he is." The bird was simple yet exquisite, its wings poised for flight. Daniel traced its outline with his fingers, his eyes distant yet filled with hope. "Whenever I feel like I can't do something, I look at this bird, and I remember that I can." The class listened intently, their hearts touched by Daniel's quiet strength. Mrs. Thompson felt a swell of pride and gratitude as she watched her students embrace each other's stories with open hearts. As the weeks passed, the sharing sessions continued to draw the class closer together. They learned about different cultures, traditions, and beliefs, each student contributing a piece of their world to the collective mosaic. Mrs. Thompson realized that Daniel's simple act of devotion had indeed been a catalyst for this transformation. His quiet faith had inspired openness, encouraging his peers to share their own stories and to embrace the differences that made them unique. One morning, as the class settled in for another day of learning, Mrs. Thompson took a moment to reflect. The room was filled with laughter and conversation, the air alive with the spirit of community. She knew that this was the result of the seeds of faith and love that had been sown by Daniel and nurtured by each student who had bravely shared their story. With a heart full of gratitude, Mrs. Thompson stepped forward to begin the day. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice warm and filled with joy. "Let's continue to learn and grow together, supporting each other as we journey through life." The students nodded, their faces bright with anticipation for what the day would bring. As Mrs. Thompson turned to the board, she knew that the story unfolding in her classroom was a testament to the enduring power of faith, love, and community. It was a narrative that would continue to evolve, guiding each child as they navigated the myriad journeys of life. In the quiet moments before the class began, Mrs. Thompson offered a silent prayer of thanks. She prayed for the strength to nurture the seeds of hope and faith that had been planted, and for the wisdom to guide her students with love and understanding. With this prayer in her heart, she picked up the chalk and began the day's lesson, her spirit renewed and her faith in the transformative power of love and community reaffirmed. As the first chill of winter crept through the town, wrapping itself around the trees and painting the mornings with a delicate frost, Mrs. Thompson found herself contemplating the changes that the season inevitably brought. The school, usually vibrant with the colors of autumn, now stood quiet and subdued under the weight of gray skies and the promise of snow. Yet, inside the classroom, warmth and hope still thrived, nurtured by the light of faith and the bonds of community that Mrs. Thompson had so carefully cultivated. However, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. A few parents had recently expressed concerns about the religious expressions that occasionally surfaced in Mrs. Thompson's classroom, particularly during discussions led by Daniel, a student whose deep faith often inspired his peers. These concerns had reached the school administration, and Mrs. Thompson was now faced with the delicate task of balancing the diverse beliefs of her students' families while honoring the faith that was so integral to Daniel's identity. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across the snow-dusted playground, Mrs. Thompson sat in her classroom, pondering the way forward. The room, usually filled with the joyful chatter of children, felt strangely silent. Her mind was a whirl of questions and uncertainties. How could she maintain an inclusive environment while allowing Daniel's faith to shine? How could she respect the beliefs of all her students and their families without stifling the spiritual growth of any one child? In search of guidance, Mrs. Thompson decided to seek counsel from Father Michael, the school's chaplain. She found him in the small chapel at the edge of the school grounds, a place she often visited when in need of solace. The chapel was warm, filled with the soft glow of candlelight and the faint scent of incense lingering in the air. Father Michael, a gentle and wise figure, greeted her with a kind smile and a knowing nod. "Ah, Mrs. Thompson," he said, his voice a soothing balm to her troubled heart. "What brings you here this evening?" She hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts before speaking. "Father, I've come seeking your guidance. Some parents have raised concerns about religious expressions in my classroom. I want to respect their wishes, but I also want to honor the faith that is so meaningful to students like Daniel. I'm struggling to find the right balance." Father Michael listened intently, nodding as Mrs. Thompson spoke. When she finished, he paused, his eyes reflecting both understanding and contemplation. "Faith, like a garden, requires careful tending," he began. "It is important to allow each flower to bloom in its own time, while also ensuring that the garden as a whole remains harmonious. It is not always an easy task, but it is a noble one." Mrs. Thompson pondered his words, feeling a flicker of hope amidst her uncertainty. "But how do I achieve that balance, Father? How do I ensure that Daniel's faith is respected without overshadowing the diverse beliefs of others?" Father Michael smiled gently. "Begin by fostering an environment of open dialogue and mutual respect. Encourage your students to share their beliefs and experiences, and create a space where they can learn from one another. In doing so, you will teach them the value of understanding and empathy, which are at the heart of both faith and education." As Mrs. Thompson absorbed his advice, she felt a sense of clarity begin to emerge. She realized that her role was not to provide all the answers, but rather to guide her students in their journey of discovery, encouraging them to explore the many facets of faith and spirituality. "Thank you, Father Michael," she said, her voice imbued with gratitude. "I will do my best to create that space for my students." With a renewed sense of purpose, Mrs. Thompson returned to her classroom, determined to navigate this challenge with grace and compassion. She began by inviting her students to discuss what faith and belief meant to them, encouraging an open and respectful dialogue. Daniel, ever thoughtful and sincere, shared his own experiences, and his classmates listened with interest and empathy. In these discussions, Mrs. Thompson witnessed a remarkable transformation. The students, each with their own unique backgrounds and perspectives, began to build bridges of understanding between one another. They learned to appreciate the richness of their diverse beliefs, and in doing so, they deepened their connections with each other. As winter deepened and the first snowflakes began to fall, Mrs. Thompson found herself reflecting on her own faith journey. She realized that her role was not merely to teach academic subjects, but to nurture the hearts and minds of her students, guiding them as they explored the mysteries of life and faith. One afternoon, as the classroom buzzed with the quiet hum of activity, Daniel approached Mrs. Thompson with a question that had been on his mind. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, his eyes earnest and searching, "do you ever doubt your faith?" His question, simple yet profound, resonated deeply with her. She paused, considering her response. "There have been times when I've questioned my faith, Daniel," she admitted. "But I've learned that doubt is not the absence of faith, but rather a part of the journey towards understanding. It's through questioning that we grow and strengthen our beliefs." Daniel nodded thoughtfully, absorbing her words. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," he said, a quiet determination in his voice. "That helps me to see that it's okay to have questions." As the days passed and the snow continued to blanket the world outside, Mrs. Thompson witnessed the fruits of her efforts. Her classroom had become a sanctuary of sorts, a place where her students felt safe to explore their beliefs and express their thoughts. The seeds of understanding and empathy had taken root, nurtured by the light of faith and the warmth of community. In this newfound harmony, Mrs. Thompson found a renewed sense of peace. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she felt confident in her ability to guide her students through whatever challenges lay ahead. She realized that her own faith had been strengthened through this experience, deepened by the connections she had forged with her students and the lessons she had learned along the way. As the school year progressed and the first hints of spring began to appear, Mrs. Thompson knew that her classroom would continue to be a place of growth and transformation. She understood that faith, like the seasons, was ever-changing and evolving, but its essence remained constant, a source of hope and love that illuminated even the darkest of days. With this understanding, Mrs. Thompson looked forward to the future with hope and anticipation, ready to embrace whatever challenges and blessings awaited. And in her heart, she carried the quiet assurance that faith, love, and community would continue to guide her and her students on their shared journey. As the warmth of early spring began to unfurl its tender embrace over Saint and school, Mrs. Thompson found herself contemplating the delicate tapestry of faith and community that she and her students had woven together. She had sensed a growing need to bridge the gaps between the diverse backgrounds that enriched her classroom. It was a challenge that demanded creativity and compassion, and in her heart, she knew she was ready to meet it. Determined to foster an environment where every voice was valued, Mrs. Thompson conceived an idea that she hoped would celebrate the beautiful mosaic of beliefs and traditions that her students and their families embodied. She envisioned an event that would not only showcase this diversity, but also nurture a deeper understanding and respect among all who attended. With the school administration's full support, she set out to organize a Harmony Day celebration. The preparations began in earnest, with Mrs. Thompson involving her students in every step of the planning process. The classroom buzzed with excitement as the children eagerly shared their ideas. Olivia suggested a cultural fashion show, while Aisha proposed a potluck featuring dishes from their respective cultures. Daniel, whose grandmother had been a source of quiet strength in his life, suggested a storytelling corner where family members could share tales from their heritage. As the event drew nearer, Mrs. Thompson marveled at the transformation within her classroom. The children were not only learning about each other's traditions, but were also growing in empathy and understanding. The sense of community had never felt stronger. The morning of Harmony Day dawned with a promise of sunshine and renewal. Brightly colored decorations adorned the school gymnasium, and each student had a glow of anticipation on their faces. Families began to arrive, bringing with them dishes fragrant with spices and stories rich with history. The air was filled with a palpable sense of celebration. Mrs. Thompson, wearing a smile as bright as the spring sun, welcomed each family personally. Her heart swelled with gratitude as she noticed Daniel's grandmother, Mrs. Rivera, making her way through the door, her frail frame supported by a walking stick. Despite her illness, her eyes sparkled with warmth and wisdom. "Mrs. Rivera, we're so glad you could join us today." Mrs. Thompson greeted her with gentle affection. "Thank you, dear. I wouldn't miss it for the world," Mrs. Rivera replied, her voice a gentle whisper of strength. The event commenced with the cultural fashion show, where students proudly displayed traditional attire from their heritage. Colors danced in the air as the children paraded across the stage, each step accompanied by applause and cheers from the audience. Olivia, draped in a vibrant sari, twirled with grace, while Aisha's intricate henna designs drew admiring gasps. Daniel, wearing a traditional guayabera, beamed with pride as his grandmother watched from the front row. Next came the potluck, a feast for the senses. The tables overflowed with culinary treasures: spicy curries, savory empanadas, and sweet baklava. Families mingled, exchanging stories and recipes, their laughter weaving a joyful tapestry of unity. The storytelling corner was equally captivating, as elders shared tales of courage and faith passed down through generations. Daniel's grandmother recounted stories from her childhood in Puerto Rico, her voice a gentle tide of nostalgia and hope. As the day unfolded, Mrs. Thompson felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She watched as barriers dissolved and connections flourished. The event was more than she had hoped for, a celebration not just of diversity, but of the shared humanity that bound them all together. As the afternoon sun began its descent, casting golden rays through the gymnasium windows, the event drew to a close. Mrs. Thompson gathered everyone for a final moment of reflection. Her voice, steady and warm, resonated with the sincerity of her heart. "Today, we have witnessed something truly beautiful, a celebration of the unique gifts each of us brings to our community. We have learned that our differences are not something to fear, but to cherish. They make us who we are, and they bring us together in ways we might never have imagined." Her words hung in the air, a gentle reminder of the sacred bonds they had forged. As the gathering concluded, Mrs. Thompson invited Daniel's grandmother to offer a closing prayer. Despite her frailty, Mrs. Rivera stood tall, her voice a beacon of love and gratitude. "Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the blessings of our diverse community. May we continue to walk together in faith and understanding, guided by your love and grace. Amen." A chorus of amen echoed through the room, a harmonious affirmation of the unity they had discovered. Mrs. Thompson looked around, her heart full of hope for the journey ahead. She knew that the seeds of empathy and acceptance planted that day would continue to grow, nurturing a future where faith, love, and community would light their path. As families began to depart, Mrs. Thompson lingered with Mrs. Rivera and Daniel. The elderly woman took Mrs. Thompson's hand, her touch a gentle blessing. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," Mrs. Rivera said, her voice filled with emotion. "You've given us all a gift today, a reminder that we are never alone, no matter our differences." Tears welled in Mrs. Thompson's eyes as she embraced Mrs. Rivera, feeling the weight of her words. "It is I who must thank you, for your wisdom and your grace have been a guiding light for us all." As Daniel and his grandmother departed, Mrs. Thompson stood in the quiet gymnasium, her heart full of gratitude and peace. She knew that this was just the beginning, a new chapter in their shared journey of faith and understanding. With renewed hope, she looked forward to the days to come, confident that the bonds they had strengthened would carry them through any challenge. And as the last of the golden light faded, Mrs. Thompson whispered a silent prayer of thanks, her faith reaffirmed by the love and unity that had blossomed in her classroom, a testament to the enduring power of community and the grace of God's infinite love. As the final weeks of the school year unfolded, the warm days of late spring seemed to echo with the joyful laughter of children, their voices a symphony of hope and renewal. Mrs. Thompson often found herself pausing in the midst of her lessons, her gaze drifting to the window where sunlight danced across the polished floors of the classroom. Each day, she felt the intangible presence of something greater than herself, a gentle reminder of the lessons she had learned, not only as a teacher, but as a witness to the quiet miracles that had unfolded within these walls. One afternoon, as the students busily worked on their art projects, Mrs. Thompson's thoughts were interrupted by a gentle knock at the door. She opened it to find Daniel's grandmother, Mrs. Rivera, standing there with a warm smile. Her eyes were bright, reflecting a joy that seemed to fill the room with its light. In her hand, she held a letter, its envelope worn at the edges, as if it had been carried close to her heart for some time. "Mrs. Thompson, I wanted to give you this," Mrs. Rivera said, her voice soft yet full of emotion. "It's from Daniel and me, a small token of our gratitude." Mrs. Thompson accepted the letter with a nod, her heart swelling with a mix of anticipation and humility. "Thank you, Mrs. Rivera. I'll cherish it." As Mrs. Rivera left, Mrs. Thompson returned to her desk, eager yet hesitant to read the words penned by this family she had come to love. She opened the envelope with care, unfolding the letter within. Daniel's neat handwriting filled the page, each word a testament to the quiet devotion that had so deeply touched the lives of those around him. "Dear Mrs. Thompson," the letter began, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for me this year. You have been more than a teacher. You've been a friend and a guiding light. You taught me to believe in myself and, most importantly, to see the goodness in others. My grandmother always says that faith is not just about believing, but about living in a way that reflects God's love. You have shown me how to do this every day." Mrs. Thompson paused, wiping away a tear that had escaped her eye. Her heart felt both heavy and light, buoyed by the realization of the impact she had unknowingly made. She continued reading, each sentence a thread weaving a tapestry of gratitude and love. "Your kindness has touched our family in ways you may never fully know. I have learned that even small acts of faith can have a big impact, like a stone creating ripples in a pond. You have taught me that, through love and understanding, we can build bridges where there were once walls. Thank you for being a part of my journey. With love, Daniel and Mrs. Rivera." As Mrs. Thompson folded the letter, she felt the weight of its words settle into her soul, a sacred reminder of the responsibility she carried as an educator. She realized that her role extended far beyond teaching math or science. She was a steward of her students' spirits, entrusted with nurturing their growth in faith, kindness, and understanding. The days slipped by, each one a step closer to the end of the school year. Mrs. Thompson found herself cherishing every moment, the laughter of her students, the quiet determination in their eyes, the way they supported one another with a grace that belied their years. She understood now that these were the true lessons of the heart, lessons that would shape the lives of her students long after they had left her classroom. On the last day of school, St. Agnes was abuzz with excitement. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers from the nearby church garden, their fragrance a reminder of new beginnings and the promise of summer. As the final bell rang, Mrs. Thompson gathered her students for one last meeting. "Before you go," she began, her voice steady but full of emotion, "I want you all to know how proud I am of each and every one of you. This year, we've learned so much together, not just about the world, but about ourselves. You've shown me the power of kindness, the strength of community, and the beauty of faith." Her students listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of sadness and anticipation. Mrs. Thompson continued, her words a gentle benediction for the journey ahead. "Remember that you are all capable of great things. Hold on to the love and understanding you've found here. Let it guide you, just as it has guided me. And never forget that you are a part of a community that believes in you, one that will always support you." As she finished speaking, the room erupted in applause, the sound a joyous affirmation of the bonds they had forged together. Mrs. Thompson knew that these moments would linger in their hearts, a beacon of hope and love that would illuminate their paths. As the students filed out of the classroom, their laughter echoing down the hallways, Mrs. Thompson lingered by the window, watching them go. The sun shone brightly, casting its golden glow across the schoolyard, a reminder of the light that had filled her classroom throughout the year. In the distance, the sound of church bells began to ring, their melody a familiar, comforting presence. They tolled with a gentle insistence, a reminder of the enduring presence of faith and hope in the community of St. Agnes. As the bells echoed through the air, Mrs. Thompson closed her eyes, offering a silent prayer of gratitude for the journey she had shared with Daniel and his classmates. And in that moment, she understood that Daniel's quiet devotion had left an indelible mark on all who had encountered it. His faith, expressed through small acts of kindness and understanding, had transformed their lives in profound ways, illustrating the enduring power of love and the grace of God's infinite love. With renewed purpose, Mrs. Thompson turned away from the window, ready to embrace the next chapter in her own journey of faith and understanding. As she prepared to leave the classroom for the last time that year, she carried with her the lessons of the heart lessons that would guide her and her students as they continued to walk the path of faith, love, and community. As this story draws to a close, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in Sarah's place? Share your reflections in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from and what time it is right now where you are. Subscribe for more stories of faith, compassion, and unexpected moments that bring communities together.